We're right back for confirmation hearing on the new AWWU Chief Mark Corsentino. Give me one more. Corsentino? Corsentino. If you have any prepared remarks, briefly, that would be the time. Is everybody ready to proceed with the confirmation hearing?
Yes.
Mr. Weddleton, are you ready to proceed with the confirmation hearing?
Is it marked with a C or an E? I have it. And we can ask.
Well, I didn't know.
Mr. Chair? Point of information, quick question.
That's great. We love PowerPoint. So you're going to go. It's not as exciting as it seems, but it's a little interesting.
Hopefully this comes out right now.
Sure. If it doesn't happen,
Okay. If it doesn't happen, I could, seems to be coming out. Use Becky's.
It would have been done if I did it a month ago. Probably not. You still need to do it now. You're okay. I only want to yell at them when you're ready. If I yell at them and then you're not ready, we look silly.
See it up there. Okay. Hopefully.
oh, there it is.
Okay. I think there's a presentation password. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Can you go on to another?
This is set up specifically for this. We don't allow it to go on the internet. Just give me a second.
You're right, I am. You got it?
Oh, she's going to get a password. If it doesn't work, Eric, I can.
Yeah.
Similar demographic.
Well, and I also think they like long-term project, but let me get it.
You're right here.
You ready? I'm not.
Come on now.
All right, we gabbled in before, but can we listen to? Let's do it again, Mr. Trainee.
Somebody left something on there. We should be able to get that off.
Eric Croft.
Gretchen went off.
And our star guest.
Mark Corsentino.
And he's getting a PowerPoint. See, he knows we like PowerPoint presentation, but while Lisa's helping you get that up, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, that's what the presentation will have, but that's okay. I'm Mark Corsentino. I've been a licensed civil engineer in the state of Alaska since 2000. I've been here since about 2000 and here it is, 2004, 2005. I'm from the Midwest. And so I'll have to repeat everything. I'll wait if you can bear with this for a minute.
You can speak while that's going on, or you really want it to?
Well, the only thing is it'll be repetitive.
All right.
So I put together a little
Personal.
cheesy slide so that will hopefully introduce myself and answer some questions and then allow room for questions when we're done. So this is who I am. It's Corsentino, Corsentino. I know I've repeated it a lot in my life. Just some favor for me. One of the things that's important to me is, as I start this position, why am I doing this? It's important that the utility, the city has the utilities engaged in the community, quite frankly, and the utility may be strange for people to understand, but it's a dynamic part of the community, and there's a lot of moving parts and pieces, and the utility is an important part of the community because our mission statement is for better or worse, and for the better, quite frankly. It's to provide clean water and wastewater services, safeguard the public health, and long and into the future. So we need to be sustainable. And the utility is a part of the community, but there's always a lot of moving parts and pieces with the utility. In other words, there's new regulations. We have to keep up to speed with there's new technologies that can make us more efficient and more reliable. And as the earthquake showed, we did a really good job during the earthquake, but part of it was because we reinvested and we kept up to date. We were innovative, if you will. So it's important. So some of the things that to me are important is staying up to speed, adapting. The only constant in life is change. It's something I repeat. We always have to be ready to adapt to new changes and confront new things. So these are just some quotes I like that were just on my mind when I did this pretty quickly. Where I came from. I'm from the Midwest, Peoria, Illinois, Caterpillar country, if you know it. Strangely enough, I got a biomedical engineering degree, then went into civil engineering because, quite frankly, I love water. I mean, it's maybe a funny thing to say, but I've always had an affinity for water. It interested me from a lot of perspectives. So civil and environmental engineering were a good tie for me. You'll see later on a lot of my pastimes involved water sports. When I started out in grad school, I worked with the United States Geological Survey for a couple of years, doing a lot of urban stormwater stuff is really what got me into it. And then after that, I moved to Seattle, and I was a project engineer for CHM Hill for several years in Seattle. Then they moved me up here after a couple of years, and I've been here since. After a while at CHM Hill, I was working with AWWU and decided it was a great place to work, and it really is. And so I moved on to AWWU, and I've been there since 2007. Being both in the engineering department where I started at, I've been the O&M director for the last couple of years, and now in this position as GM. And I've been a PE since 2006. I've got family. I have one of 5 kids at the Midwest. My wife, Nicole, I have a dog. Hobbies, as you can see, I love water and snow are 2 fluids. They're depending on the season. I'm a dork when it comes to engineering. Fluid dynamics is fun. But these are just the hobbies I have, and then when I'm at home, I do whatever my wife tells me to do. This is just some of the fun things that we like to do together. And then this gets back to stuff I've kind of repeated, but my vision, really to uphold the mission of the utility. Like I said, safeguard the public health and environment and via clean water and wastewater service is always on my forefront, has to be. That is our mission, that is our goal. Adapt to changing regulations, and honestly, being aware, we have to be good stewards of our ratepayers' funds, and that's important. Is we had a recent rate increase, and at least our financial model showing we're going to continue to have those. We need to go back and look and see to make sure we're being fair to all our ratepayers. We are a good value if you compare ourselves to other utilities, but at the same time, the biggest threat to me that I see out there is we brought it up. Someone brought up the recent. Joint Assembly Borough meeting with the Anchorage Assembly that there's, the port, $2 billion, right? The other $1 billion item out there is if Anchorage ever has to go secondary for our wastewater treatment plant, that's another $1 billion rough ticket item. And so we need to have rates be ready to adapt to that, because that's a big change in rates if that ever happens. And so I want to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep rates down and fair so we can prepare for that if that ever does occur. And that's all I can say about that, because that's something that keeps me up at night. But there's also things we'll always adapt to make sure we're in good compliance so we don't have to run into that threat with the EPA. Some of the cool things that we're going to do is we've always talked about, whole municipality, not just AWWU, we've always talked about emergency response and how do we practice emergency responses. Well, we got one on November 30th, and it was a really good lesson. And we're participating with the municipality and partnering in with what lessons do we learn, but we've done a lot with ourselves recently, and we're going to start implementing some changes that we've talked about for a long time, but this is a good reminder. Let's make sure we do it, and it's just a good time to do it, and we're going to do that. And that's it. That's my introduction.
I appreciate it, Mr. Trainee, Mr. Dunbar, Mr. Constable, Mr. Trainee.
Just 3 quick questions.
Sure. Just 3?
Finances in your area, what does the finances look like? And under Mark Primo, they were great.
Yep.
But I've been hearing stories. So how are the finance AWWU doing?
Good. So one of the key measures that we look at is our debt to equity ratio, because, quite frankly, to be very fair, we're in a good position on the water side. We've actually petitioned the RCA to have our dividend restriction lifted, and it was. That being said, there's a couple liabilities out there, especially on the whole utility, that we're aware of. A is the recent earthquake. We don't know how much we'll get reimbursed for that, so there's a several $million hanging out there. And then B, we've got some residual SAP issues with timekeeping, errors of pays, if you will, with unions, and there's a big potential liability there. So those things are kind of a threat right now. But other than that, on the water side, we're good. Sewer side, we're continuing to improve. So honestly, we've been in a good position. We still are. I'll say it.
Second question is related to the water transmission line.
Yep. This is the Eagle River one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you supporting that transmission line?
We have an infrastructure coordination agreement that we support, yes.
Okay. Third question is, how big of a town can we handle with water coming out of the Clute? I mean, we shut down the wells we have in Anchorage. We could put those back online if we ever needed to.
As a matter of fact,
based on the water supply coming in, what population base can we support?
Well, the capacity at that for the transmission main, where we could get up to, well, the plant capacity is no more 35 to 4 million gallons a day. So what does that support? There's room with our storage and our distribution. That's a good question. How much more can we grow? It's not a concern of ours right now. Let's put it that way, based on current projection growth. But so to answer your question, the other thing we're doing right now, every 5 or so, 3 to 5 years, we're required by DEC to do a water master plan and a wastewater master plan, and that does population forecast and growth. So we address that in that manner. The recent population projection growths are small enough that there's no concern we really have at this point in time with that. The other thing is we do have wells in town, and we do use those in the summertime on a regular basis to meet projections.
So you still try and run them every now and then?
We do, yeah, correct.
I just wonder what the water table's done, because we were using them. It's gone down. We got a lot of complaints when we shut them down with floods in people's basements.
Oh, okay.
The water level went up and the basements were flooded.
Well, there's a mix of issues there. To be frank, our groundwater, some of our wells, they're deep wells, so they don't have a groundwater interface, if you will, because it's a whole different aquifer, quite frankly. So I don't know how to answer that question, but our wells are in good shape.
Thank you.
Good answers. Ms. Wimoff thinks I'm ignoring her. I may be. Go ahead.
I just have two questions, and one of them has to do with the master plan that you do every few years.
Okay.
And I understand it used to be online, but then due to national security issues, you took it offline. And then in order for someone to look at it, it costs $25. Is that the best we can do? I don't know if $25 is going to deter.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, we need to address the security issues because it is a new thing. I mean, that is always from cybersecurity to these threats are getting more real every day. We see that people have been, if they know our system and they can break into our SCADA system. Our SCADA system basically allows us to do automated operation from remote facilities. If they break in that and they know our system really well, that puts us at a greater risk. So we don't want to easily publish that information. That's a constant exercise we go through. As far as the cost, I don't know for sure if it's the best we can do, but what I can tell you is like anything the utility does, there's the basic premise that we operate under is cost causer, cost payer. And so we want to make sure we're not having other people subsidize other people's requests. So we can look at that though. I mean, maybe there's ways we can put some of that online without having the less risky material, if you will.
And that came up from, obviously I'm from Chidiac, Eagle River. And,
Sure.
I was very involved in the task force with Birchwood.
Sure.
And that. And one of the issues was that one of the people we worked with said, well, this has actually been in our master plan. And our question was, how can we see that? And how, if you have a master plan that impacts an area, if we can't see that? And so that's why that's there. You don't have to respond to that.
No, you're right.
The other one is that I would really be interested in how you would go about this. Many areas of Anchorage have comprehensive plans. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that occurred in that process was that, and a quote from one of your AWWU folks was, we didn't even know it existed until we had a meeting with you guys. And so I wonder about the integration of comprehensive plans into your master plan And so at least a knowledge of it, not making
Sure.
a change, but at least recognizing that there is a comp plan that an area should be familiar with. So can you address that?
To some degree, the reality is when we know that's somewhat news to me. I'm assuming this is an Eagle River comp plan that you're.
It's Eagle River.
I know, like Hillside District Plan is always a big one we're involved with for a lot of different reasons because we have a certificated area. So if it's in our certificated area and there's a district plan or comprehensive plan, we should be engaged, and we normally are, quite frankly. So if there's specific ones or not, that's news to me. But we have a planning department, and they coordinate well down MOA's planning department as well. And so if there's something we're missing, then I'll have to go back and talk to the director that's under that and see what happened. See
So
if there's a disconnect.
someone very high up in charge of the project said, we didn't know you had a comp plan.
Was it an older one? See, now if it's a legacy comp plan versus a newer one, was it an
It
older?
was the one that was done in 2006, and we are probably due for an update.
Okay.
Will you follow that up with her later?
Yeah.
Yes, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Those are things that
Yeah,
are on my
I understand.
radar
Yeah.
that I hope in your new position that you help make sure that they're paid attention to.
I agree. Makes sense.
Mr. Dunbar, apologies. No, Mr. Constant, Mr. Weather.
To briefly report, so you were on the water team for CH2ML?
Correct.
Does that mean you worked on port engineering for them?
I did not know.
Thanks.
So we wanted to hear, Mr.
Second one is,
Oh.
are you aware of the conversation that started 2 months ago about fire hydrants?
I am very aware of it.
Okay, because that to me is a pretty important issue,
Yep.
and although it will cause my neighbors and myself to pay more, I think it's only fair that we figure out a way that the people who don't use the service don't pay for it.
That's correct. So we're gonna do an analysis on that this year. So we are starting that process. Let's put it that way.
Mr. Weddle.
Okay.
Good. So amongst the development community, there's a sense that our water utility in particular is underdeveloped and that major developments are asked to shoulder what should be a public expense. If they have to do the trunk line, where
Sure,
that should be
right.
ours. Are we, compared to other municipalities our size, underdeveloped or let our water system?
Well,
We updated it in a timely manner, and are we doing that with developers?
So there's areas certainly undeveloped parts of Anchorage and the Anchorage municipality of Anchorage, let's put it that way. And we have certificated areas. That's what our master plan's for. Now, the trick is what you're getting into, I believe, is that
Unless your master plan is in this period of time, 12
Yeah.
years, we're going to have everything redone. Or
well,
something.
and even the master plan doesn't say how it gets done. Remember, there's multiple ways that you've
Sure.
gone through this process.
But we're going to get to this by doing 1/12 of it a year or something like that. I haven't read through
We
those.
have a certain amount we've put in there for expansion, but honestly, our priority right now, it depends on the utility's priorities. Right now is our aging infrastructure's rehabilitation of that.
In a 10-year, 5-year, 20-year, 50-year period,
which is what's the question?
which of those periods are you going to have it done by?
Well, if it's in I'll have to get back to you on that, Eric. Honestly, the short answer is I don't know. The tricky part is for us is developers drive infrastructure expansion for the most part here. Back in the day, it was Uncle Ted and grants and funds. Those have kind of gone away. The Cluton line, for instance, was funded entirely by the federal government, right? When those grants and things are available, we can put those towards expansion.
I guess that's to my question. Like, we've been relying on these other things. We could say, we're done with that. We are going to have a plan that in 20 years, we're going to redo all our aging and deteriorated
sure.
infrastructure.
We are doing that.
Okay, what order of magnitude is the time frame? Next year you're going to have it all done, or 100 years from now?
Oh, it's more like 100 years, yes. Because we can only do so much at a time. We have over 1,600 miles of buried water and sewer pipelines.
Do we have a plan to do it in 50 years or whatever it is, 100 years?
It'd be 100. I mean, the goal around rough order of magnitude is to replace 1% per year. And we don't meet that because that's expensive. So we're going to reevaluate that. We also have plants. So we
It
have.
seemed like even if you did 1%, by the time you got to 100, the 99th would have been.
That's right. Those are called Nessie curves, and those are very real, and those are analyzed. Basically, it shows you where's your cost going to be for replacement.
Why aren't we at least at that 1%? That is,
Well,
wait
yeah,
a minute.
yeah.
So it's like you say, it's too expensive, but it's only as expensive as your plan and the rate that they'll approve. We might balk at it, but it also might be the right thing to do.
Oh, that's right. And we will take a look at it. The short answer is we're actually a relatively young infrastructure utility. I mean, the bulk amount of our pipe went in the ground in the 80s, so it's relatively young. That being said, it's also deteriorating faster than we'd like it to.
Mr. Constant, and then we'll have to wrap up.
Just to follow up on your point there about deteriorated infrastructure, old
Yeah.
infrastructure in the downtown, in certain sections, there are still wood coopered pipes that flow the water.
Would
right?
stay there,
And
yeah.
so-
Talking to me?
Yeah, well, anyone, really, but the fact is, we have wooden pipes running water in our downtown, they're still functioning from
Correct,
the original
yeah.
town site and just beyond.
Good soils downtown.
In terms of replacements, we do need a plan for that, and it is happening painfully slowly, but our infrastructure in some areas is very old.
You're right.
Mr. Dunbar?
Yeah, note for the record, your use of the word coopered, constant. There is a provision in, I'm not sure what your contract is called exactly, but the flow out of the Clutha Reservoir between MLMP and AWWU,
Yep.
it says if water spills over the dam,
We like it when that happens.
Doesn't
Well-
happen very often.
right, then you don't have to pay.
Correct.
And there has been some insinuation, not by you, but other folks, that MLP or whomever there doesn't let that happen. They run water faster out the pipe because they like the several $100,000 or whatever it is you pay a month to them. How do you feel about that provision?
Well, if that was the case, it would be sad. But I don't know. I've heard the insinuation too. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't even know how we'd go into that. What we did do honestly this year though is you'll see the audit report. We actually audited that payment schedule, so you'll see the auditor's report in the next month or so.
That is my understanding. It's only happened like a couple times in the last several years.
Yeah, when there's flooding, we don't pay, which is great. In other words, when the Clutha Lake overflows, we do not pay for the water. Now, that being said, keep in mind it's a noticeable impact. It's about $1 million fee per year that we pay for that overall. So it's about $100,000 a month roughly. But it's a small portion of our overall budget, but it's a noticeable portion.
So if we were to eliminate that provision, you wouldn't be a fan of that. But on the other hand, it doesn't happen very often.
No, if I didn't have to pay that fee, I'd be thrilled to death.
No, I'm not talking about the fee. I'm talking about the overflow portion. But yeah, anyway.
Oh, if there's an overflow, what was the question then?
Well, I want to. The water that comes out of that reservoir, as you know, is very precious. And
Yes.
we have another goal. We have to possibly use some of it. Right? And because of that, we want to make sure that we can preserve as much water in that reservoir as possible.
Fair enough,
But
yes.
we also want to hold you inviolate. I mean, I think it's pretty clear to everybody that worked on this that AWWU's portion is AWWU's portion. We're not going to do anything with that.
Okay.
But we want to make sure that things are structured in a way that the incentives are right.
Correct.
So there's enough water left over to maybe accomplish some of these other goals.
Yep.
Are you
Okay.
familiar with any of that
I am.
stuff?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, you said you didn't know. Wouldn't it be in your interest to find out whether the power consortium at Clutha was spilling water to avoid paying you?
Yes.
We're interested in you figuring that out as well.
Question, how?
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you for being willing to serve.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Any public testimony?
Just says, my name is Judy Callahan, I was present for this meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry I missed you before, Mr. Eben. We did have time. I try and do it when we have time and just got moving.